Once upon a time, in a quiet corner of Seattle, a boy named Bill Gates was born into a family that believed in curiosity, learning, and hard work. His parents were dreamers too, but they never pushed him to be anyone except his best self. From the very beginning, Bill showed signs of a mind that refused to settle for easy answers. While other kids his age were outside playing, he could often be found buried in books far beyond his years, losing track of time in worlds of logic, history, and invention. He was curious about how things worked, but even more curious about how they could work better. In school, Bill wasn't the typical star student. He wasn't chasing grades for the sake of grades. He was chasing ideas. He wanted to learn, not to impress anyone, but because he needed to know. It wasn't about competing with anyone else. It was a competition between the version of him today and the version of him tomorrow. At 13, he discovered a computer, a machine so foreign at the time, it scared most people. But to Bill, it was love at first sight. That first machine was clunky, slow, and primitive by today's standards. But to him, it was a universe waiting to be shaped. He and his childhood friend Paul Allen would sneak into the computer lab after hours, skipping classes just to feed their growing obsession. They didn't know what they were doing at first. They just knew they had to do it. Every line of code they wrote was a step into a future they were beginning to see more clearly than anyone else around them. They weren't chasing a trend, they were creating one. Bill went on to Harvard, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. For many people, getting into Harvard would have been the final victory, the peak of achievement. But for Bill, it was just another chapter. Sitting in lecture halls, surrounded by some of the brightest minds on earth, he realized something most people never do. He didn't want to just be smart. He wanted to build something that would change the world. And then, the call came. Paul Allen had found an article about a company called MIT's that was looking for people to write software for their new computer. Bill and Paul saw an opportunity not just to work for someone else, but to create a future where computers weren't just for scientists and big companies. They would be for everyone. Bill made a decision that would terrify most people. He dropped out of Harvard. He left behind the safe, paved road to chase something invisible, something that only existed in his mind and heart. Microsoft was born in a small room with big dreams and very little else. No fancy offices, no investors throwing money at them, no guarantee of success. Just two young men who believed that the world was ready for a personal computer revolution, even if the world didn't know it yet. They worked endlessly, sleeping under their desks, fueled by pizza, coffee, and a passion that burned hotter with every challenge they faced. And the challenges were many. Competition, failure, doubt from the world around them. All these things could have crushed lesser spirits. But Bill had a secret weapon, relentless determination. Every time they were knocked down, Bill got up stronger. Every setback became a lesson. Every no became fuel for a bigger yes. He wasn't trying to build a company. He was trying to build a movement. He dreamed of a world where every home, every student, every small business had the power of technology at their fingertips. And slowly, inch by inch, deal by deal, dream by dream, Microsoft grew. Bill Gates didn't become the richest man in the world overnight. It took years of sacrifices that no one saw. Late nights when quitting would have been easier, decisions that carried unbearable pressure, losing friends who couldn't understand the magnitude of his obsession, facing criticism from those who called him too ruthless, too demanding, too different. But he understood something vital. You cannot make a dent in the universe if you are afraid of standing out. By the age of 31, Bill Gates became the youngest self-made billionaire in history. But what is more inspiring than the money is what he chose to do with it. As Microsoft soared to unimaginable heights, Bill started asking bigger questions. How can I use my success to fix the broken parts of the world? How can I fight poverty, disease, and injustice with the same intensity I once used to build software? And so began a new chapter. Together with his then wife Melinda, he created the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, one of the largest private philanthropic organizations in history. While others were buying yachts and islands, Bill was traveling to impoverished villages, investing in vaccines, education, and health systems that could save millions of lives. He didn't want to be remembered for how much he had, but for how much he gave back. Even in the face of criticism and conspiracy theories, even when it would have been easier to stay silent, Bill Gates continued to show up, not for recognition, but because he believed that success without service is a hollow victory. He didn't just write code anymore. He wrote hope into the world. Through it all, one thing about Bill Gates remained constant: his belief in the power of learning, hard work, and imagination. He once said, "Don't compare yourself with anyone in this world. If you do so, you are insulting yourself." He understood that the only race that matters is the one between who you are and who you have the potential to become. Bill Gates' story isn't just about building Microsoft. It's about believing in your vision even when nobody else can see it. It's about sacrificing comfort for greatness. It's about turning knowledge into action and action into impact. It's about falling in love with learning and staying curious, even when you've reached the top of the mountain. He teaches us that success is not about where you start, it's about where you're willing to go, how much you're willing to learn, how hard you're willing to work, and how bravely you're willing to dream. Bill Gates wasn't born into certainty. He built certainty out of passion, perseverance, and a willingness to leap when others hesitated. Today, when you hold a smartphone, when you open a laptop, when you connect with the world in seconds, you are living in a world that Bill Gates and his generation of dreamers made possible. But the real question is, what world will you create? What dream are you willing to chase so relentlessly that it scares you? What future are you ready to build with your two hands, your restless mind, and your unbreakable heart? Because greatness isn't reserved for a select few. It's earned by those who dare to see the invisible and work for it when the world is still laughing. Bill Gates' life whispers to each of us, start now, start messy, start scared, but whatever you do, start. Your dream deserves nothing less. And someday someone will tell your story too, about how you didn't wait for permission to change the world. You just did it.